All right. So just over a year ago, I was in El Paso, and I was standing on the border, literally standing on the border between New Mexico and Texas. What started out as a desire to want to take action and get involved had me facing the biggest challenge of my life. I was about to take my first few steps in running over 850 miles across the entire state of Texas. My goal was to do a solo run of just over 30 marathons in 30 days, all an effort to help raise awareness and money to fight against child sex trafficking. I remember starting that run feeling extremely excited and physically strong, and with this burning desire to want to capitalize on my resources and really my time. I knew that every day each of us are given 1,440 minutes to make the most of. And the amazing thing with that is we get to decide how to spend those minutes, right? How to choose to spend our time. We can be extremely productive, we can work and build and help build our communities, or we can decide to relax, spend time with friends and family. But so many times we are completely unproductive with our time. And in fact, on average, we spend over 160 minutes a day watching TV alone. And that just didn't sit well with me. I wanted to do more, I wanted to give more. Because what if you couldn't decide how to spend your time? What if due to circumstances outside of your control, you were forced to do the most horrific acts? Well, folks, that's a reality for over 300,000 children here in the United States every year who are victims of child sex trafficking. This is the motivation, really, that brought me to the starting line and what gave me the strength to kind of catapult me through the beginning of this run. But by day 3, reality was kicking in, right? I was already becoming overheated, and due to the fatigue, I wasn't eating very well. I had lost 5 pounds within the first few days alone. Already, day 3, I'm thinking to myself, I remember being on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere by myself, just feeling completely isolated and alone, and thinking, what in the world have I gotten myself into? But I knew I couldn't quit. There was really no option. See, I'd already drugged my family, my friends, and my staff through a year's worth of preparation. We had held dozens of fundraising events, and the training alone, upwards of 100 miles a week of running just in training. We spoke at dozens of schools and churches all over the Houston area, all in an effort to help raise awareness and really try to get people inspired to get involved and come help us in our mission to educate and stop this horrible problem. So I brought all of those people with me emotionally, right? I also brought a letter that I had received from my mom, who first started out thanking me and my team for what we were doing, and then kind of closed the letter asking us to pray for her, saying that just 6 months earlier, she had lost her child to sex trafficking and was still waiting on the FBI to bring her home. This was more than enough to fuel us, keep me going, despite of being overheated and fatigued. But on day 5, the unthinkable happened. I had a last couple miles that day. We had an 1,800-foot climb, and with 5 marathons under my belt and, feeling fatigued, I took one of those steps, I misstepped, and I rolled my ankle. Immediately, the pain was real, and the swelling took place, and I remember stopping right there in the road and thinking, man, I don't know if this is possible. Not just my spirit, but physically, I don't know if I can do another marathon, another mile. But we continued to push on, and luckily, due to the people that I had around me, I knew I was going to need a strong team. People like my wife, Amber, my campaign manager, Brian Hudson, my road dog, Russell Hudson, who drove me across the state and changed a few flat tires along the way. And guys like Eric Setter, my brother-in-law, who took a month of his life off to follow me, most of the time on a bicycle, to do a photo documentary of the run. And one of the things this team and I did is we came together before we set off, and we wanted to define our quit. What would it be to stop us in pursuit of this goal? And so for me, it was easy. I defined that quit as being hauled away in an ambulance, and nothing short of that was going to stop me from my goal. So, swollen ankle, pain and all, I limped on. Luckily, by day 7, things were starting to turn around. Energy was picking back up. My ankle was feeling a little bit better. But I was still needing to consume over 6,500 calories a day just to keep my energy up. And in spite of doing so, and along the way eating 118 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and over 240 bottles of water, I would still lose over 20 pounds that month. But this wasn't just a physical endurance feat. It was mental as well. By day 12, the monotony of what I was doing was really kicking in. I was having to rely on some of my own tips and advice. I mean, I've given dozens of talks to people about goal setting and how to tackle big things and conquer the world. And I knew that one of the things that I was going to have to do is shorten the goal, make it a little bit smaller. And very early on, I went from finish line to, hey, just one more marathon, Jason, one more marathon, one more marathon. But by day 12, with so many days left, I was literally down to one more mile, just one more mile, a few more steps. You can do this. It wasn't just a physical pain, it was mental and emotional as well. I mean, I longed for my friends, my family, my support system back home. I'm a real family guy, so being away that long was a really difficult thing. I mean, it was almost 20 days into the run before I got to see my wife again. I really learned what it was like to be in pain and to be away from the people that you loved and the people that loved you. But what kept me going was this knowledge and this just knowing that there's so many children out there going through a way worse hell than anything I could possibly imagine in doing a marathon. And so we put a smile on our face, we mustered up for another day, another marathon, and we set off. And by day 20, things were picking up. I could start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I really began to get motivation and belief that this was possible. Not just a crazy dream or a goal or something that we're going to do, but that it was really, really possible. And it was somewhere right around then, around 2/3 of the way through the run, that I really started to notice people started paying attention now. Believe it or not, it was difficult to get people on board with me, trying to be a leader, trying to do this thing. I think somewhere around 2/3 of the way, I became not just this crazy guy with this crazy goal, but somebody who might be able to actually get this done. And so donations started coming in. My own company, a marketing firm, had done a phenomenal job of gaining exposure and bringing in the funds and the money, so that by the end of it, we raised over $200,000 worth of professional services rendered, radio airtime, and dollars sent in. I mean, this was more than enough to fuel us for the rest of the run, but it was also especially rewarding on day 26 as I ran through my hometown. I mean, think about it. The natural course, the shortest distance between El Paso and Orange, led right through a small little hometown where I first originally started running. I didn't start running as a kid. Didn't run in high school. I didn't run in college. I was an adult before I ever got this passion. And I could tell you from the very first run that I did, I knew I was hooked. I knew I was going to use this for something. And it was a really long run, too. I ran about a block before I passed out, and I had to walk back home. But I knew at that point something was lit inside of me, and I said, man, I'm going to do something with this. I feel purpose. I feel compelled to want to do something with this passion, and I just have to figure out how to bridge a gap. It was 6 years later before I would figure out how to do that. And then before I knew it, there I was. I was lacing up my 9th pair of shoes for the month. I was about to set out on my 30th marathon in 30 days. I mean, I'll never forget that marathon. Such an emotional run, finishing up on top of the Sabine River Bridge between Texas and Louisiana. And today, of all days, October 30th, is the 1-year anniversary of that finish line. I can't say that the pain and what I went through was anything close to what these kids feel on a daily basis, but I can tell you that I did feel pain, both physical and mental. But the good news is that it was all temporary, right? So many times when we're giving of ourselves, it feels all-consuming. It feels like it's our whole world. But as I stand here today, the pain's gone, my ankle's healed, I've gained all that weight back, maybe a little more, right? But I know for sure that the knowledge that this team shared, the hope that we gave, and the money we raised for Love 146 will have a lasting, lasting effect. So look, I'm not asking you to run across Texas, but I do want to leave you with a challenge, okay? I want you to think about your gifts, think about your assets, think about the things that you've been giving, and how can you bridge a gap with those gifts to a cause, to someone or something in need. I happen to believe that one of our most valuable assets is our time, and the fact that we get to decide how to spend that time has an amazing impact. My cause happened to be child sex trafficking, and my passion was endurance running, having a marketing firm, and maybe a team of people that came behind me. So what is it that moves you? What moves your spirit? What makes you feel vulnerable? Don't ignore those feelings, and instead decide to spend some of your 1,440 minutes to make a difference in the lives of the people around you. Because I can tell you, folks, the reward of doing so is so much greater than the sacrifice when you know that you've given all that you've got with all that you've been given. Thank you so much.